Hi everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Small Business Bootcamp webinar series. Today we're going to talk about the small business lending ecosystem. And in this ecosystem, this is a bunch of different lenders that work together to create a cohesive whole. And why is this important to you? Well, it depends on your situation, which one of these players in this overall ecosystem, or a couple of these players in this ecosystem, you might want to engage depending upon your own financial position. Okay, so how do we get to this spot? Like, why do we need an ecosystem? Aren't banks enough? Well, banks are typically what we call balance sheet lenders, meaning they own your debt. Now, what's happened since then is in the information age, where there's shared and distributed resources, that's opened up a lot of different avenues to fund a business, and we'll go through those today. Okay, the four different types of lenders we're going to talk about today is the balance sheet lenders, the marketplace lenders, the platform lenders, and the payment lenders. So a balance sheet lender, what makes someone a balance sheet lender is that they keep your debt, right? Some other lenders will sell your debt, will portion off your debt, will try to minimize risk by distributing your debt. That is not what a balance sheet lender does. The balance sheet lender owns your debt, and therefore they have more stringent criteria and they're a little stingier with sharing it. So traditional banks are balance sheet lenders. There's some new ones. Kabbage is a balance sheet lender. There's a few others. Balance sheet lender, okay, the balance sheet lender is the credibility, and balance sheet lenders are usually the ones that can loan you the most amount of money. So if you need a large sum, if you want to know that you're dealing with a credible organization that will be around, there's less risk in using a balance sheet lender. What are marketplace lenders? All right, marketplace lenders are what they say, they're a market. And what is that market? Well, it's a market of investors. And what they do is take your loan or take your offer and put it out to a distributed network. That distributed network can decide to provide some money or not provide some money. And if all of that distributed network comes together, they will offer you your loan. So the classic example of a marketplace lender is Funding Circle. If you want more information of it, go check out their website and see what they say. The benefit of using a marketplace lender is the marketplace can be more forgiving. If you have a compelling story, they're less stringent than the banks might be. It's not that they're going to give you money if you go bankrupt, but if you have less than perfect score, if your credit scores, if you're just starting out, a marketplace lender might be appropriate for you. Okay, lending platform. So what's a lending platform? It is a platform of lenders. Sorry, I don't mean to be so glib, but basically what it does is it will shop your loan around, and different banks can put in different offers. They're usually non-traditional banks that aren't as well known as the major banks, and they will compete to offer you a loan and give you your terms. Lendio is a good example of a lending platform, and you can check it out to see how it works if you're. The reason to use a lending platform is to get more exposures to banks than to putting applications in one by one. So obviously there's the convenience of applying to multiple banks with one application, which adds some simplicity to it. You also have the benefit of these banks competing against each other to see how you can get the best rate possible. Now these tend to be smaller banks and not the national banks, so the amount of funds can be limited. Payment companies are just starting out, and it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with that. They're brand new, and I'm talking about PayPal and Square, which are typically merchant services. So we can talk about what merchant services is very, very quickly. It's how you turn credit cards swipes into cash. So these guys are there to help you do that. Now, whether these are going to be loans that are cash advances or whether they're going to be typical loans remains to be seen. So it's it's more of a category to keep an eye on than a category to engage in just Okay, let me share a couple examples of clients we've worked with. So let's start with my client, Joe. Joe, great credit score, good balance sheet, been in business for over 2 years, he needed about a quarter of a million for an expansion. Given the size, given his history, balance sheet lenders were the way to go. Now let me tell you a little bit about my client Jill, where we had to engage this ecosystem a little bit more because she was newer. Her credit was good, but not great. So, and the amount of cash she needed was substantial, but under 100,000, which we thought we could manage by going through a couple of routes. Her story was very compelling. So we went through the marketplace lending approach, but they have caps. So once we hit the caps and knew what we could get from the marketplace lenders, we engaged the lending platforms to make up the remainder. And we were successful in getting her full amount by using bits and pieces of this ecosystem. So why is all of this important? Why should you care? Well, the truth of the matter is it's good to know that the ecosystem exists, because sometimes your capital needs can be different, and sometimes your capital situations can be different. And if you go the wrong path, you can wind up being rejected, and every time you go for an application, it's a pull on your credit. So it's very important to make sure that you select the right people of the ecosystem for your capital needs. Thanks everyone for your time and watching this webinar. I hope you got something useful out of it. The remainder of this month, we will continue to post articles in the bootcamp which are relevant to the small business ecosystem, so you can see how different people access the ecosystem in different ways, and maybe that'll help you. Next month, we'll talk about small business hiring and how small businesses can compete in a very competitive labor market. So bye for now.